In 1951, something strange happened at Le Mans. Among the sleek, roaring giants of motorsport, a little silver coupe rolled onto the grid, quiet as a whisper, barely making 46 horsepower. To put that in perspective, some lawnmowers today could probably give it a run for its money. It looked more like someone brought their daily driver to a knife fight against tanks. But by the time the checkered flag waved 24 hours later, the joke was on everyone else. That little Porsche 356 SL didn't just survive the world's toughest endurance race, it made history. It proved that you didn't need brute force to win hearts. You just needed grit, reliability, and a dream on four wheels. This wasn't just a race, this was the moment a name, Porsche, began echoing through racetracks forever. And it all started with 46 horses and a whole lot of courage. The year was 1951. Europe was still brushing off the ashes of World War II. Cities were being rebuilt, factories were firing back up, and with them came the slow revival of motorsport, a kind of therapy on wheels for a continent learning how to breathe again. At the heart of this revival was Le Mans, the grueling 24-hour endurance race in France. But make no mistake, this wasn't a playground for the weak. The grid was dominated by muscular machines, Ferraris with fire in their bellies, Jaguars that clawed at the tarmac, and Talbots roaring like they had something to prove. These were the big boys with big engines and even bigger egos. And then there was Porsche, a name that back then didn't exactly send shivers down anyone's spine. If people had heard of them at all, it was because of the humble Volkswagen Beetle, the car designed for the people, not for pole position. Porsche wasn't a racing dynasty. They were a fledgling outfit from Stuttgart with more passion than horsepower and more hope than hype. But sometimes hope is exactly what history needs. Now, into this arena of roaring lions came a very different kind of beast. Picture this. While Ferrari and Jaguar showed up with growls and glamour, Porsche quietly rolled in with something that looked more like a silver teardrop than a race car. This was the Porsche 356 SL, SL for Super Leicht or Super Light, an aluminum-bodied coupe originally crafted in a tiny sawmill turned workshop in Gmünd, Austria. It was quite literally a car built by dreamers in the mountains. Under the hood, a 1.1-liter flat-4 engine producing just about 46 horsepower. It topped out at around 99 miles per hour, assuming the wind was feeling generous. On paper, this wasn't a race car. It was a polite Sunday driver that somehow wandered into motorsport's most brutal proving ground. The entry wasn't even backed by a massive factory effort. It was a modest move, led by Auguste Veuillet, a French Porsche importer with a racing heart and the right kind of madness. Porsche didn't come to win. Let's be clear about that. Their mission was simple. Finish the race. Survive. Prove that their little coupe could go the distance while others burned out, broke down, or blew up. In a field full of brawn, Porsche brought brains and a stubborn sense of belief. So, how did this underdog story actually unfold on the tarmac? Behind the wheel of the 356 SL were two determined drivers. Auguste Veuillet, who helped bring Porsche to France in the first place, and Edmond Mouche, a seasoned driver with steady hands and nerves of steel. They weren't chasing glory, they were chasing the finish line, but as it turned out, fate had something a little more dramatic in store. The race began under gloomy skies, and soon the heavens opened. Heavy rain drenched the track, turning Le Mans into a treacherous, slippery mess. The big, high-powered cars struggled. Many of them spun out, overheated, or simply broke down under the stress. It was chaos, and in that chaos, Porsche's little silver coupe quietly kept going. This is where the 356 SL shined. It didn't guzzle fuel like the others, it didn't chew through tires, and it didn't fight the rain, it danced with it. Light, nimble, and efficient. The Porsche wasn't fast, but it was smart. Every pit stop was calculated, every lap was about survival, not speed, and survive they did. After 24 grueling hours, the 356 SL crossed the finish line. Not first overall, that was never the plan, but first in its class, the 1100cc category. and 20th overall out of a field packed with far stronger contenders. In Porsche's very first outing at Le Mans, they hadn't just shown up, they'd made history. Not bad for a car that most people laughed at on the starting grid. That little class win in 1951, it was more than just a trophy. It was a turning point. Because up until then, Porsche was a company with potential but not much pedigree. They were the new kid in a school full of giants. But after Le Mans, the world started paying attention. That race proved something no press release ever could. Porsche didn't just build cars, they built machines that could endure, outlast, and outperform when it truly mattered. The win gave them the confidence and the credibility to lean harder into motorsport. It lit the fuse for what would become a racing legacy. Soon after came the Porsche 550 Spider, that slippery little roadster made famous by both its track victories and a certain Hollywood rebel. Then the 718 RSK, and eventually a full-blown racing division that would become the envy of the paddock. And the rest? Well, that's motorsport legend. Porsche didn't just return to Le Mans, they dominated again and again and again. Over the decades, they racked up a jaw-dropping 19 overall wins, more than any other manufacturer in history. But it all started with that humble, rain-soaked run in 1951, with a car nobody thought could stand a chance. That first Le Mans victory didn't just change Porsche's reputation, it gave new life to the car that started it all, the 356. The early models, the Gmund cars built between 1948 and 1950, were pure craftsmanship. Hand-built in a tiny workshop in Austria. They had lightweight aluminum bodies and the kind of quirks you'd expect from cars made by passionate engineers with very few resources. Each one was a labor of love, and it showed. But after the Le Mans spotlight, Porsche began to grow up. Production moved to Stuttgart, and with it came steel-bodied versions of the 356. These were sturdier, easier to produce, and made in greater numbers. The model evolved over the years, through the 356A, 356B, and finally the 356C. Each version a little more refined, a little more capable, but still true to the original spirit. Light, agile, and designed to be driven, not just admired. Even as Porsche moved on to more advanced models, the 356 never left the racetrack. Privateers kept racing them, often with Porsche's quiet support. And they kept winning on small circuits, hill climbs, and endurance events all over the world. That underdog DNA never faded, and today, the 356 lives on in a whole new way. A movement has emerged around these cars, what people lovingly call the outlaw 356 scene. Builders like Rod Emery take old 356s and reimagine them, part hot rod, part art piece, part tribute. Think of them like singers take on the 911, only for the car that made the 911 possible. They're louder, wilder, and unapologetically personal, and they keep the soul of the original 356 burning bright in a modern world. That little 46 horsepower coupe didn't just finish the race, it rewrote expectations. It showed the world that Porsche, then just a modest outfit with a Beetle-shaped past, could stand toe-to-toe with racing's giants. Not with brute force, but with brains, grit, and an engineering soul that wouldn't quit. That's why Le Mans 1951 wasn't just a class win, it was a declaration. A quiet but thunderous statement that we belong here. And over time, Porsche didn't just prove it, they embodied it. From that first 356 SL, we trace a straight line to the 919 hybrid that conquered Le Mans with cutting-edge tech, and now to the thunderous 963, the latest in a long legacy of endurance warriors. But no matter how advanced the machines get, that original spirit still lingers in every turn of the wheel. Imagine for a second the old number 46 356 SL parked next to today's hypercars. It's like looking at the original Spark alongside the wildfire it started. One is bare-boned, aluminum, and utterly human. The others are sculpted from carbon and code, but the heart is the same. Because Porsche never forgot what that little coupe proved in 1951, it's not just about horsepower. It's about heart, and that's the kind of legacy that doesn't fade. It races forward.